The boxer recently publicly rejected the Irishman's offer of a $200 million two-fight deal, but it now seems that the American is interested in taking on MMA legend Terence Crawford, who in a recent live stream seemed more inclined to accept Conor McGregor's $200 million two-fight offer. According to McGregor, the boxing champion turned down the opportunity to fight him twice. After Bud said that he had no desire in participating in an MMA, negotiations broke down. Crawford is incredibly cunning and has a history in wrestling. The Irishman claimed that as rumors of a possible two-fight agreement started to circulate, McGregor brought up Crawford's lesser-known qualities, emphasizing his versatility as a combatant. McGregor also noted, "You know they're always talking to me about bouts. I've already boxed a boxer, and the best boxer in MMA is me. You know what I mean." McGregor's confidence in his abilities has always been one of his defining traits, and here it's no different. Having already faced Floyd Mayweather in the boxing ring, he sees himself as the one fighter who transcends both sports. To McGregor, stepping back into a boxing match isn't a novelty. It's simply another chapter in his storied career. By claiming the best boxer in MMA is me, McGregor aims to position himself as a unique hybrid athlete, one who could not only stand toe-to-toe with Crawford, but possibly outshine him in both arenas. Furthermore, McGregor stated, "I generate the most power." We were talking back and forth about a two-fight deal. He rings up Crawford in front of me the day after the fights. I get on the phone and say, "Crawford, they're here talking about you and me fighting in a two-fight deal. MMA first, boxing second. I know you have an extensive wrestling background and balls the size of a Bengal tiger. They're asking for a fight. It'll be hundreds of millions on the line. What's up?" I said, and then he goes, "I don't fancy taking a kickoff." Conor McGregor, that's what he said. You must honor that. According to McGregor's description of the exchange, he tried to persuade Crawford to accept a two-fight deal that would begin in the MMA cage. By bringing up Crawford's wrestling experience and the enormous financial payouts, he was obviously trying to push Crawford outside of his comfort zone, understanding the difficulties a boxer would encounter versus an MMA fighter. Crawford's response demonstrated his prudence as he wasn't willing to risk an MMA fight, despite the possibility of enormous riches, despite McGregor's attempts to appeal to both pride and profit. Both combatants are aware of the high risks.
Yeah, good job. I was making that weight like that. Halfway down.
In a recent Instagram message, Bud hinted at accepting the two fights, but he declined the chance to potentially earn a life-altering paycheck. In a recent Instagram statement sent to the social media site, Bud hinted at accepting the two battles. McGregor wrote about Al with a great deal of regard. Bud Crawford, one in boxing, one in MMA, $100 million in a bout. In response to the comment, it seems the American is now salivating over the prospect of a two-fight agreement with the Irishman Ethan Notorious. He claimed that although he had earlier turned down the MMA match, Crawford's joking answer suggested that the enormous playout would be enough to change his mind, suggesting that he was now considering the two-fight contract. Emma tempted him. Following the brief Instagram exchange, Crawford appeared more receptive to facing McGregor on both platforms, leaving fans to wonder if this back and forth will become a reality. Bud disclosed that Crawford was working out on the mats and once more made a call out on social media, expressing his interest in maybe entering the cage in the video.
In here working. Get back on the mat. Get back on the mat. Get back on the mat. Hey, Connor, get back on the mat. Stay tuned, baby. Stay tuned. It's working.
Crawford's statement about returning to the mat feeds rumors that he may be prepared to take on the challenge of competing against McGregor in mixed martial arts. The American champion is most recognized for his boxing skills, but by publicly confronting McGregor, his wrestling experience may give him an opportunity to compete in the octagon. Crawford appears to be hinting at followers that he may be getting ready for something significant. This statement not only rekindles the idea of their crossover conflict, but also ups the ante, suggesting that Crawford may be sincere about venturing into uncharted terrain. Since then, the video has gone popular on social media, and McGregor has even responded to the little video. "Is this you accepting the fights now, my brother Terence?" the 36-year-old wrote. MMA is Saudi for Riyadh season, followed then by a boxing bout. "Tremendous, Terence, well done. I accept it, Turki Alalshik. It's on, baby." Raid season with the new Bruce Lee Conor, MG Turki Alalshik, has been critical to the continued surge of elite heavyweight action in boxing, struck a sponsorship agreement with 2 major US boxing promoters in Top Rank and Golden Boy Promotions, and also sponsored the UFC's massive event at the Sphere in Las Vegas. UFC boss Dana White told in an interview before that we should expect great synergy between himself and Aaliyah, with both fighters enthusiastic about striking an agreement. It may just be a matter of where, when, and how, and Aaliyah Schick could help because of his relationships with Crawford and White. Conor also noted boxing's pound-for-pound #1, tremendous Terence Crawford. "Wow, what a spectacle. You've never seen these moves. Turkey, I am a master martial artist. I am the maestro. Let's go." I will show McGregor's enthusiastic response to Crawford's viral video has only added more excitement to the potential showdown. His bold declaration that both fights and an MMA bout in Saudi Arabia and a boxing match are on the table ignites speculation that the crossover event could be closer to reality. Crawford is coming off a successful outing in his last fight against Israel Madoff in August, in which he won the WBA super welterweight title. He was also awarded the WBO interim title in the process, and as a result, was made mandatory for WBO and WBC champion Sebastian Fondor. As for McGregor, the Notorious hasn't fought since losing to rival Dustin Poirier at UFC 264. 3 years ago, he was expected to fight Michael Chandler in his comeback to the UFC, but pulled out of his UFC 303 clash due to an injury. Speaking to Blot Elbow at the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships event in Marbella last weekend, the Irishman suggested he is scheduled to fight Dan Hooker in Saudi Arabia. In a brief exchange, the BKFC shareholder retorted on February 1st, Saudi Arabia, adding Dan Hooker. When asked, his opponent Rob Acosta weighed in on the highly anticipated Terence Crawford versus Conor McGregor negotiations with a bold take on how both fights would play out. His perspective, which stems from his own wrestling experience, adds a fresh angle to the conversation as he confidently backs Crawford in both the boxing ring and the octagon. Acosta started by making a strong claim. "I got Crawford beating Conor in both boxing and MMA. I got him." His belief stems from the way fights begin on the feet, and Acosta emphasized that Crawford's striking ability would give him an edge. He elaborated on why he thinks Crawford would win every fight that starts standing. And Conor McGregor is not going to be able to stand with Crawford. "I have a wrestling background. I wrestled in Philly and was ranked 2 years in a row, and I've seen Terence mess around in videos. He really knows what he's doing." A seasoned wrestler himself acknowledged that, while Crawford's wrestling experience may not be against top-level opponents, he believes his skills could be enough to neutralize McGregor's attempts to grapple. Then he pointed out McGregor's vulnerability in grappling exchanges. Every time Conor McGregor did get into fights, he got into wrestling matches. You know, he got choked out too. I'm not saying Terence will choke him out, but if Terence can prevent Conor from taking him to the ground by using wrestling, he has to force him to stand, and Ostia emphasized that if the fight stays standing, Crawford's superior boxing skills will overwhelm McGregor regardless of the setting, giving Crawford the advantage. Furthermore, he gave credit to McGregor, but reinforced his point. "Don't get me wrong, I think Conor McGregor in MMA is a phenomenal fighter. I'm not downplaying him at all. He's a great villain who changed the MMA world and made it more of an entertainment thing, but bro, we're talking about 4 gloves and Crawford in an octagon where he can still do his thing. The only thing I'd worry about is the leg sweeps." Aorta recognized McGregor's MMA legacy, but he reiterated his confidence in Crawford's chances, pointing out that the only area where McGregor could pose a threat is with his leg kicks, which would be new for Crawford to handle. Jamal Herring shared his thoughts on Terence Crawford's decision to avoid an MMA fight with Conor McGregor, expressing his understanding and respect for Crawford's stance. Herring acknowledged Crawford's self-awareness. "I respect Bud because he actually came out and was like, I'm not trying to get kicked all over my elbows, and he knows, like, we as fighters deep down, we know our lane. You know what I'm saying?" Herring emphasized that fighters understand their strengths and limitations. He pointed out how boxers often joke about dominating MMA fighters in the ring, but very few are willing to cross over into the octagon due to the high risk involved. He elaborated on Crawford's decision to stick with boxing. We sit there and clown how we beat up on MMA fighters when they do come over here and get in that ring. But again, you don't see a lot of boxers trying to jump into that octagon either. Bud was like, yo, for what? Especially when we feel like we can take less risk to our limbs in the boxing ring? Herring highlighted that Crawford's choice was about avoiding unnecessary damage while still being able to secure major paydays in his own sport, where the risk of injury is more controlled. Herring also praised Crawford for pursuing financial opportunities while putting his health first. I'm not mad at Bud, man, he said. He probably thought, hey, go get it another way, but again, if it's like, yo, that's 100 minutes both ways, then hey, go get your money. In the end, Bud Herring defended Crawford's decision to stay out of the octagon, but he acknowledged that the huge payout might still entice him to investigate the opportunity, even if it means taking a calculated risk. Herring emphasized that although Crawford possesses the strength and wrestling experience, he is well aware of the distinctions between boxing and mixed martial arts.
He can wrestle. You know, he down. Bud is very physically strong. You know what I mean, in that department. But again, he's still it's still a different. He knows it. Like Bud's not stupid. He's still a different ballpark. You know. But again, if you want to grapple with him, he gonna get down with you too.
Herring expressed confidence in Crawford's ability to handle himself if the fight went to the ground, demonstrating his faith in Crawford's versatility. He acknowledged Crawford's awareness of the significant differences between the two sports, but he also credited Crawford's willingness to adapt if necessary. In a surprising moment that brought together two of combat sport's biggest stars, Terence Crawford and Conor McGregor watched Anthony Joshua's shocking knockout defeat to Daniel Dubois. Crawford, the reigning pound-for-pound king in boxing, and McGregor, the outspoken MMA icon, both appeared to be in disbelief as they witnessed the stunning conclusion to the bout. This unexpected crossover of worlds added more intrigue to their own looming fight negotiations. The fighters are in completely different periods of their pro careers, as though Crawford is on a high with an all-time welterweight thrashing over Errol Spence Jr. in 2023, preceding a comfortable super welterweight win over Israel Madero this year. McGregor has not fought since suffering a broken leg in the latest installment of his three-fight rivalry with Dustin Poirier in 2021. Regardless, because of their name value and their respective fighting disciplines, it could prove to be a monster at both the gate and the box office. Crawford has seemingly been laser-focused on super fights. Only two weight classes separate Bud from Saul Alvarez, but the American appeared willing to box the unified super middleweight ruler Canelo Alvarez, who thus far seems uninterested in the fight, recently mentioning a prospective rematch with Dimitri Bivol. Instead, this left Crawford to consider a verbal two-fight deal for McGregor before accepting the idea of a potential showdown. Terence Crawford and Conor McGregor engaged in a candid conversation about their respective sports, drawing lines on where they felt comfortable stepping in. Crawford opened up about the negotiations, explaining the initial offer they offered me for the fight. He said during an interview with Bernie the Boxer, he also added, Conor and I got on the phone and started politicking to try and figure something out, man. I'm not getting in no exploitive octagon with you so you can be kicking an elbow at me. This instance demonstrated Crawford's unambiguous position. Although he is a flexible and powerful fighter in the boxing ring, the champion found it too much to handle McGregor's MMA world, where grappling, elbows, and kicks rule. The respect and understanding that boxers of their ability have for one another's sport is reflected in Crawford's remarks. Crawford recalled that McGregor's response was kind, saying, I respect that you respect my sport just as I respect your sport. You realize that if you were to enter the octagon with me, you would be at a disadvantage, just as if I were to enter a boxing ring with you. I would be at a disadvantage. McGregor's recognition of the stark differences between boxing and mixed martial arts, MMA, underscored the delicate balance that only a select few, including McGregor himself, have dared to do. The Irishman's competitive spirit was unabated, as evidenced by his previous boxing ring fight with Floyd Mayweather, but he was also aware of the risks involved. He remained enthusiastic, pushing for the fight, saying, "What's up?" in his own interview with Dual Bits. Crawford said, "I don't want to take a kick. You got to respect that while the initial negotiations acknowledged the risks, McGregor's excitement about the financial and promotional potential of this massive cross sport." Although McGregor had no problem with boxing or mixed martial arts, both combatants were aware that they would be entering each other's area. However, after demonstrating his rigorous sprint training, it was evident that Crawford wanted to keep the entertaining bout within the bounds of his own skill. Terence Crawford's commitment to his conditioning is made abundantly evident. The video demonstrates Crawford's unwavering work ethic while emphasizing his remarkable speed and stamina, which have made him one of the sport's most feared fighters. His training focuses on developing the mental and physical stamina required to outlast opponents in the ring, not just on sheer power. This sprint workout highlights Crawford's all-around athleticism, which makes him a complete fighter, and serves as a reminder that his preparation extends beyond boxing skills. For a long time, boxing fans have talked about the renowned sparring session between Terence Crawford and Andre Ward. Known for their unbeaten streaks and high IQ technical talents, both fighters challenged one another in these private sessions. Crawford, a younger, more aggressive fighter, demonstrated his versatility and unrelenting style, while Andre Ward, a former pound-for-pound king, contributed his knowledge of defense, ring generalship, and the capacity to adjust midnight.
He said he's gonna go 2 or 3. He said 3. Today I get some rounds with the GOAT, one of the GOATs. What's up?
Crawford has benefited much from this sparring experience, which has helped him become more adept at handling competitors with different skill levels. Crawford's development as a boxer has surely been aided by studying Ward's tactical style and defensive tactics, especially in managing pressure and regulating the tempo of a fight. Crawford's future fights may benefit greatly from this experience, particularly as he gets ready for opponents that have distinctive fighting styles or who are able to make in-fight adjustments like Ward did in his professional career.
Good round, good round.
Crawford anticipates his upcoming bouts, whether they will be against top boxers or crossover athletes like Conor McGregor. The rigorous training sessions with Ward have given him a greater appreciation for time, patience, and ring control. Crawford will remain calm thanks to Ward's influence. He can counter well under pressure and make astute changes to be at the top of his game no matter what. Terence Crawford's persistent dedication to staying at the top of the sport was demonstrated by his intense training schedule and diligent preparation. His unrivaled work ethic would be the driving force behind any prospective bout with Conor McGregor. With McGregor's audacious challenge, Crawford's physical and mental conditioning distinguishes him as a tough opponent in any situation, regardless of his strength, speed, or wrestling prowess. This bout, which is now gaining steam, has the potential to become a huge crossover event that unites MMA and boxing fans in anticipation. Will McGregor be the one to falter under the intense spotlight of the boxing ring, or will Crawford actually venture outside of his comfort zone? The two are currently tantalizing the prospect of a confrontation that would alter both sports, putting the globe on edge. There is no doubt that it will be absolutely legendary if it does occur.